Hello. So we're going to start a new project. I've got a dining table I'm building for a local guy in Majimba on the Sunshine Coast. He's got these two Camphor Laurel slabs. He's been saving them. So what we're going to do is going to basically stitch them both together and form a big massive 2.7 meter long dining table. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to cut out this section here so it kind of fits much tighter there, and then same in the middle and same at the other end. It's going to make one big long table, and then when they're all joined, I'm going to glue them together, clamp them up and glue them, and we'll fill this middle section. Any little gaps that are left, we'll fill that with epoxy. So it is a nice book match pattern, so it should look pretty good. So the first thing we have to do is fill up all these gnarly cracks that are in it. So we've got to stabilise them and fix them with epoxy. And you can see I do run the whole way through the board. So the way we tackle that, first of all, is I'm going to seal off the bottom here, the underside of the board. So I'm going to get some tape on it and then clamp on a bit of timber, so it's all plugged up from the bottom, and then we can, from the top, we can start filling up all these holes and stabilize the whole thing up. The epoxy will find a way out, so you have to be super careful to make sure everything is blocked up and sealed before you start pouring, because you don't want to be halfway through a pour and epoxy starts going everywhere. So that's the plan for today. I'm going to start prepping up all these cracks, sand them down on the top, seal up the bottom, and then I'm going to get some epoxy into them. So wish us luck. Okay, so I've done a quick clean up of the underside of these cracks. You can see the big cracks coming the whole way through. So I've done a little clean up here, so when I do get the tape on, it's got an easier bond. You're not trying to bond onto all these saw marks, so it just will help a little bit. So now I got that cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and get some tape on it, and then I'm going to put some silicone around it, and then I'm going to stick on some plywood, for example. So get some tape on it, silicone, and then we seal it on like that, so it's completely sealed from the back. Alright, we'll keep going. So we got this all cleaned up. I've done a little rough sand on the top, cleaned it up. I've pulled out all the really loose stuff. You don't want to have super loose stuff sitting there. It's just going to break off, and it's just a weak point that can come off later on. So we clean them all up. There's a big crack. So it's all clean. They're giving it a light sand and a vacuum out. So now we're gonna mix up the epoxy. This is what I use. West Systems 105. Slow hardener. Little plastic cup. And my mixing knife. So this mix is at 5:1. So I use the scales. I'm going to go for let's go for a 140, and then let's do maths on camera. Is that 28? No. So then a 0, and we're going 28 grams. There's 20%. Whoops, close enough. Alright, and then use my trusty plastic knife, and then just give it a mix and keep going. It's really cloudy, keep going till all that cloudiness is gone. So you keep mixing, and eventually you see it's nice and clear. So you have to keep going. Make sure you scrape the sides so you don't have one of the two ingredients stuck on the side panels. So yeah, keep on mixing, trying to get as little air as possible in there, but it's pretty hard to do. So keep mixing. Sweet. Alright, so this is the first pour I'm doing on this. Now, the way this stuff works is, so as an epoxy, it's a two-part epoxy, so you got the resin there, and then you got the hardener. They have a chemical reaction, they heat up, that heat then causes them to turn from a liquid into a solid. Now, the deeper the pour, the hotter it's going to get, so if you want to do the whole thing in one, you run the risk of it overheating, and then when it overheats, it then will start bubbling and going nuts that you don't want. So a couple of things you can do to kind of help it is pour thin layers. So initially, if you've seen earlier on, we blocked off the bottom, made it all secure so nothing can leak out. Now I've got paintbrush. So what we do is we pour a bit in, and then we use the paintbrush to coat all the sides all up in here, so it kind of seals it, and that stops oxygen and air coming out from the timber when we pour later on. If we were to pour just the full depth, all this bark in here, it's really bitty bark, that would release little tiny air bubbles, and that's just going to cause the reaction to get even worse. So basically, keep it small, pour a thin one to start, coat all your sides with a brush, and then you can top it up later on to finish it. Alright, here we go. Let's put our expensive mixing utensil away. So keep that for later on. And then the fun bit is just pouring it in. So I want to get a good layer in here. So that'll do. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the brush in and try and get right in and coat all the cracks. Coat everything. Get a good seal on it. Is this the best way? I don't know, but hey, it works for me. The more you can reduce the air bubbles, the better. And as this is going to be a clear epoxy, in the cracks here, you don't want to be seeing air bubbles. So what will happen is if you pour loads of epoxy in, you'll get air bubbles will start to form down the bottom, the epoxy will be hardening, and then they'll just sit there forever. And I can show you there. That is a nice prime example. It's all dust, so it's not that bad. But you can see there's bits of air bubbles caught in the bottom of that didn't come out. So there's a coffee table. And there's a crazy turquoise epoxy slab table. Anyway, back to the one we're actually doing now. So that's the plan. I'm going to get all this in, fill all these cracks, and take it from there. Okay, so I've got a little bit in each of the cracks now. There's two main reasons that we do this, and that is, one is to seal it up, stop all the air bubbles coming through in later on in different pores. But one of the main reasons is that with the depth comes pressure. So if you try and pour the whole thing in one, it's going to want to just find a crack, find a hole, and it'll force itself out and it will find it. So if you just pour a little bit in to start, it's good because it'll all settle on the bottom of this crack, and then it'll seal it all up. So then when you go to fill it up later on, it's watertight. All right. Now, one thing you're going to get with epoxy is when you're pouring it, there will be those little air bubbles trapped in the timber coming out through the epoxy. It's going to be hard to show you, but one of the tricks, you can see there's a bit of an air bubble in this. Come on, there you go. Joys are filming on the phone, so you can see there's a bit of an air bubble there. So all you do is get your lighter, pops the air bubble. Easy as that. So then you go along as you're pouring. You just check everywhere for air bubbles. So I mean, this is very thin stuff, but there we go. So we shouldn't have many because I haven't actually sealed anything or covered any complete holes. So that's the main one. Alright, I think we're good. It's the first coat, so you want to leave it 24 hours and then go again. Then we can fill deeper and higher on the next one. Okay, so I've done 2 pours now, and I have got most of the way up on them. So this one's full, these are all full. This needs another little bit over here, but on the big guy here, it is probably about like 50 mil deep. And my worry is that if I pour it, normally what I would do is I'd pour it to about 10 mil below the surface, and then I would make sure it's all nice and pretty, and then to the last layer you just have to worry about 10 mils deep, so it's quite easy. But the problem I have here is because it's clear epoxy, if I fill this to 10 mil below, I'll never be able to get bubbles out of it from underneath. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it the whole way up in one pour, and I'm just going to get it all done in one. So you can see I've got this one over here, I've got mostly full, a couple of decent cracks still left, all looks pretty good. So I've mixed up 300 mils of epoxy. I'm going to go for it. So wish us luck. So there's quite a bit of air in this, so I'm hoping it finds its way out easy enough. See how we go. So I'm going to overfill this a fair bit, and then it's going to be a bit of a pain, but I'm just going to sand it back. Okay, I reckon that's enough. You can see, so the air bubbles getting pushed out. So that's obviously just the gap that we have in there. So what I might do is do a little bit of leveling, because you can see that all the epoxy is heading to one direction. So I'm going to do a bit of leveling on this board, get it straight, try and keep it all in the same place. But so basically, I would let that just bubble away like crazy for 10 minutes, let most of the air come out of it, and then I would go and start putting some flame on it and try and get some of the air out of it. But we'll leave it there. Alright, as you can see, there's plenty of bubbles, but that's obviously, it's a bit of a strange shape, so there's going to be air trapped in there as I pour that epoxy in. So now what's happening is that air is just forcing itself out here. If I actually break this surface. Yeah, so give it time, let all that, the main parts of air come out, and then we'll start getting at it with a flamethrower and getting all the fine bubbles out of it. Now after a while, you need to start using the flame to get rid of all these little tiny bubbles, see them? So it's still moving quite a bit, but I'm going to give it a hit now. So, gas on. Quick hit, not too much. Same over here. Really don't want to do much. Okay, so by introducing that flame, you're introducing a lot of heat. There is a worry that you can kick off the chemical reaction. That's looking pretty good. So we're going to have quite a few bubbles still coming up, but for the most part, it's pretty sweet. So yeah, by all means, use the flame, but be super careful. Only give it a quick hit, and also I would give it some time, because you don't want to do it all. You don't want to do it many times. So let loads of bubbles come up and then give it a hit, rather than hitting it early. 2 minutes later, it's just too much heat. So keep going. Every time big bubbles come, give them a quick lighter, pop them out. So we're looking pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Get on those last few ones with a flame and a torch later on. But yeah, it's getting there. There's quite a lot along this edge, so I'm not sure. I probably need a bit more epoxy. I think what I'll do is I'll just get it nice and clean, and then I'll top it up later on if need be. So unfortunately I had a small leak, and I've been losing a little bit through the bottom. You can see it's obviously a lot lower now than it was a minute ago, or a few minutes ago. It's a very slow leak, and I've got some silicone underneath to try and close it up, which I think has worked. But yeah, basically I'm just do nothing, let it go off. That'll plug the leak. Hopefully you don't lose it all, and then you just top it up again. But yeah, it's gone pretty good. This side is pretty clean. Still one place with air coming there, but the rest of it's all nice and air bubble free. So we'll keep going. Alright, welcome back to Majimba. We've been busy. I've done 4 epoxy pours. It's covered in sawdust now, so it's hard to see, but 4 epoxy pours to cover up all the cracks and get it all filled in. So it's looking really good. It's the biggest one. So that's turned out very well. I'm very happy with that. So obviously there's a fair bit of sanding now to get this back. It's a nice finished surface, but that's okay. I'd rather over pour and sand back than go under. So now where I'm at is I need to get the 2 of them stitched together. So if I come outside, so we can see there's the 2 boards. So the plan is now I've been making very small cuts to bring them in together into line. So I've trimmed back the middle. So this front section here, I'm going to trim this back until they meet beautiful and flush. And then in the middle, I've ground off that edge on the left hand side to marry up with the right hand side perfectly. Now, what I'm in the process of doing is, this one's pretty good when it's clamped together, so I'm clamping this side together to its fixed finished position, making sure we're not clashing in the middle. And then I'm going to fix this end piece so they're both locked into position, and then I'm going to get the saw blade from just the hand circular saw and set up a track system. And I'm going to just start one cut, and I'm going to send this one cut the whole way through till it pops out into this crack ravine here. And by doing that, the saw blade is 3mm, so the aim is I'll be cutting from this side and cutting from this side with the same saw blade, so therefore when you join them together it's perfect, so it's two of the exact same cut. But yeah, there it is, it's looking great. So the key is here just to go slow and steady in small cuts and sneak up on it. You don't want to go over cutting, but this table it's going to be 1 meter wide by 2.7 long, so I mean, even if you did make a mistake, you got a bit of play with that. But alright, that's the plan. We'll keep going. And this is what I was talking about, the gaps we're going to have as well with the two timbers. So basically we're going to be stitched together at one point here. I'm going to do what I can to get a couple of biscuits in here glued in, and then we're going to be stitched together solid with biscuits down the bottom. Then what we're going to do is, when everything's clamped up, I'm going to pour epoxy river the whole way through underneath. So this is going to be completely sealed. But yeah, the structural strength, I'm just making sure I'm going to have biscuits here. I'm kind of discounting this because it tapers away underneath, so to a V, so I can't really get too much on that. But I will get some, so this is going to be just to add a bit of stability. I'm going to do my best to get a biscuit in here. And then down the end, this is going to be the main point as well. So I'm going to be able to get 2 rows, 2 sets of 2 biscuits here. But the fact is, if you just pulled both sheets apart and poured epoxy resin through the middle, that's going to be enough structurally to hold it anyway. So I want to have it so it's strong enough with the timbers and the glue, and I want to have it so it has the epoxy as well. The glue up's done. It was a bit of a mission, but got it done. The bloke I'm building this for was actually here helping. He's a chippy himself, so he knows what he's doing, which was good. But we two of us got into it and got it done pretty good. So you can see what we've done is there's 3 main areas we've clamped it up. Clamped it here where it's braced with, has like 6 biscuits in it, and we got some biscuits along here, and then we got more up the top here where she's clamped really tight as well. And then we've also got the chocks in it to stop any racking or turning of the timbers. Now they're not perfectly flat timbers. He didn't want it that way. He wanted it to be more natural, and he's just going to sand it down and kind of keep the natural flow of the wood. So as you can see here, it's a little bit up and down. The plan is to get that out in sanding to something that's nice and smooth, but not perfect. It's kind of the style that he wants. Now, so we have seal up here. There's going to be nice epoxy flowing from this point here all the way through this valley here and all the way down, and then we're pretty much touching through the center of it here, and we have a couple of biscuits through this point just in the top, and then yeah, solid clamped up here at the other end. So I think it's going to be pretty strong to have three fixed points and then held together with the epoxy that's going to be poured underneath as well. So it should be heaps. But yeah, it's been a fun one. It's tough. Basically, we had to cut the 2 ends so they were straight and touching, and then we made a little template that matched one side of this curve, and then we just kept shaving it back until the 2 ends met. And that's what we did. We just kept working up towards the middle. But that's going to be a pretty epic dining table. So it's 2.7 meters long by 1 meter wide, in its thinnest point. So it's she's big, she's heavy, but it's good.